There is a bear in Yosemite that has a name. Rangers gave it to her. Visitors photographed her for years. She approached campsites without aggression, moved through human spaces like she belonged there, let people get close enough to see the color of her eyes. In 2021, she was euthanized. Not because she attacked anyone, because she had stopped being afraid. And an animal that has stopped being afraid of humans inside a national park, inside a species that can kill without effort, that animal has a survival probability that drops to near zero. Not immediately, quietly, over time, until the day it doesn't. This is what happens to wild animals that trust humans too much. And the science behind it is more unsettling than the outcome. Every wild animal alive today carries a fear response calibrated over thousands of generations of contact with humans. It is not learned individually. It is inherited. Researchers at UC Santa Cruz confirmed in 2019 that animals flee from the sound of a human voice faster and farther than from the sound of lions or wolves. The fear is not a reaction. It is a default setting, a survival prerequisite encoded at the genetic level. The animals that lost that fear or never had it, or had it eroded through repeated safe contact with humans, those animals left a different kind of record. Not in fossils, in ranger reports, in wildlife rehabilitation logs, in the specific clinical language of population management documents that describe what biologists call habituation. Habituation is the process by which a wild animal's threat response to humans diminishes through repeated non-threatening exposure. Sounds neutral. It isn't. In Yellowstone, grizzly bears that become food-conditioned, bears that associate human presence with the reliable appearance of calories, are tracked with a precision that mirrors criminal surveillance. Every approach to a campsite logged, every interaction documented. The bears receive strikes in the formal language of park management. 3 strikes in most cases and the bear is euthanized. Not because it became dangerous in that moment, because the data on what food-conditioned bears do next is unambiguous. The trajectory is known. The outcome is predictable. The trust, once formed, does not reverse. What makes this biologically strange is that the fear response being eroded is not a simple reflex. Research by Joel Berger at the Wildlife Conservation Society, published across multiple studies between 1998 and 2007, documented what he called the loss of ecological fear in large mammals that had lived for multiple generations without predator contact. Moose in the greater Yellowstone area that had never encountered wolves showed almost no response to wolf scent, wolf calls, or wolf presence. The response had not been suppressed. It had degraded. Through disuse across generations, the threat template for wolves had simply faded. Berger called this an invisible wound. The animal looks healthy. It behaves normally across every other dimension. But it is missing a layer of threat assessment that its ancestors had, and that absence is only visible when the predator returns. The parallel with human contact is direct. An animal that grows up near humans, fed by humans, photographed by humans, approached by humans who mean no harm, that animal's threat template for humans does not sharpen. It softens. The same process Berger documented in wolf-naive moose applies to any apex threat that is repeatedly encountered without consequence. The mechanism matters here. When a prey animal detects a threat and nothing bad happens, the nervous system does not conclude the threat is gone. It logs a data point, 1 safe encounter, 2, 50. At some threshold, different for different species, different for different individuals, the alarm system recalibrates. The cortisol response dampens. The flight distance shortens. The animal stops moving away. From the outside, this looks like friendliness. It isn't. It is a nervous system running the best calculation it can with the data it has, and arriving at the wrong answer because the data it was given was incomplete. The humans it encountered were not representative of humans as a category. They were a selected sample. The ones who fed it. The ones who photographed it. The ones who thought it was beautiful and wanted to get closer. The ones who wanted to shoot it were somewhere else. In 2011, a study published in Biological Conservation analyzed data from 151 large mammal conflict cases across North America. The finding was consistent. Animals involved in human-wildlife conflict, bears, cougars, wolves, coyotes, showed significantly reduced flight initiation distances compared to animals with no conflict history. The animals that ended up dead or relocated were not the most aggressive. They were the least afraid. Fear, it turns out, is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Islands produce the clearest evidence of what happens when that system fails completely. The dodo is the simplest example, though it has been simplified to the point of distortion in popular retelling. The dodo was not stupid. It was naive in the specific technical sense. It had evolved on Mauritius without mammalian predators, and its threat recognition system had no template for the kind of animal that arrived in 1598. It did not run because nothing in its evolutionary history had taught it to run from something that looked like what the Dutch sailors looked like. Naivety syndrome is the formal term biologists use for this. It appears in island species, in species reintroduced to areas where predators have been absent for generations, and in individual animals that have been extensively habituated to human contact. The animal is not broken. It is simply operating with a threat library that does not contain the relevant entry. And here is where the science becomes genuinely strange. Because the animals that survive human contact most successfully, the ones that are still here, the ones whose populations are stable or growing, are not the ones that learn to trust us. They are the ones that learn to use us without trusting us. Crows, raccoons, coyotes, urban foxes. These species sit at the precise edge of human space, close enough to exploit the caloric abundance we generate, far enough to maintain a flight distance that keeps them alive. They are not tame. They are calibrated. The coyote that takes food from a suburban yard at 2 a.m. is running a different calculation than the bear that approaches a campsite at noon. The coyote has maintained the fear. It uses darkness, distance, speed. It has learned to extract value from human proximity while keeping the threat assessment intact. Its population has expanded into every major American city over the last 50 years. It is one of the most successful large predators on the continent. It is afraid of you. That fear is the strategy. The bear had a name. The coyote doesn't. That asymmetry is not sentimental. It is biological. The animals with names are the ones that got close enough for humans to give them names. And getting that close required a reduction in fear that, in the long run, most of them did not survive. What the science cannot fully answer is where the line is. At what point does the fear reduction become irreversible? Whether the process can be slowed by management, by reducing positive human contact in wild areas, by removing the food that conditions the association. The research suggests the answer is sometimes, under specific conditions with young animals before the recalibration has completed. But habituation in adults, particularly food conditioning, shows extremely low reversal rates in the documented literature. The bear in Yosemite had been photographed by thousands of people. She had eaten from campsites across multiple seasons. She had never hurt anyone. She was euthanized because the data on what comes next, in animals with her specific behavioral profile, is not ambiguous. She trusted the wrong thing. Not maliciously, not stupidly. With the only system she had, running the best calculation available to her, on data that was true as far as it went. The question the research leaves open is not whether the fear matters. The data is clear on that. The question is what it means that the most dangerous thing in an animal's environment is also the one most likely to approach it gently, offer it food, and watch it with something that looks, from the outside, almost exactly like love. The animals that survived figured out the difference. The ones that didn't left names behind.